So Alyssa, LCM is least common multiple. In the
Yes.
previous video, we learned how to make factors and what's the meaning of multiple. Um, for example, let me give you some example in the context of 2 times by 3 is 6, right?
Mm.
Now, 2 and 3, both of them will divide 6, we know that. 2 divides 6, 3 also divides 6. So we call 6 is a multiple. 6 is a multiple of 2 and 3. So 6 is one of the multiple. There are many multiples, but 6 is one of the is a multiple of 2 and 3. Now we know that 12 is also a multiple of 12 is also a multiple of 2 and 3. But 12 is not a least. Do you agree that 12 is a multiple of 2 and 3?
12?
Yeah, because 12 is divisible by 2 and 3. Both of these numbers divide 12. They divide 6 as well, so 12 is also a multiple, right? Is also a multiple of 2 and 3. And how about 18? How about 24? Yes, all of them are multiple. They are all of them are multiple of 2 and 3. But the question is, which one of them is the least? Which one of the least? Which one of them is the smallest?
The
6.
two.
6 is the smallest, yeah. So 6 is the least common multiple of these two numbers. In the same manner,
18 is the
greatest common factor. Sorry, greatest common factor. I don't know why I write M there. Made a mistake. Alright.
Oh, let me. You want the
Alright, so that's that.
greatest common mistake.
Mistake. Greatest common mistake, that's right. So now that is least common multiple.
I was actually gonna warn you. You wrote out there.
I know, that's funny. So we now we know that that's the least common multiple. We have 6, 12, 18, 12, 24, and so on.
You wrote
So we learned that this is the multiple, and we have too many multiple for 2 and 3. There are many numbers which will be divisible by both of these numbers, right? But the least is 6. Now let's do a couple more questions, and we will do the GCF later on. How about 2 and 7? What is the LCM of 2 and 7? Least common multiple for 2 and 3. 2 and 7.
not 2 and 3.
No, 2 and 7.
Let's see.
Which number is divisible by 2 and 7? Now, the easiest is multiply them. 7 times 2 is 14.
Yeah.
So 14 is a multiple of 2 and 7. 14 is divisible by both of them. Both these guys divides 14, so they are factors of 14, and 14 is multiple of them. So we call them factors once again, and that's the multiple of that, these two numbers. Now, which one is the least common multiple? 14, because we have many other numbers. For example, 28 is is also a multiple of 2 and 7. 2 and 7 divides 28, but 14 is the smallest. So we have 2 and 7, and we have many other numbers. Can you give me any other? 42?
Yeah, 42.
42, yeah. 42 is divided by 2 and 7, and so on. Many numbers. So we concluded that this number is the least common multiple, right? This is the least common multiple. And the previous question, that was the least common multiple. Good? So least common multiple, I make a green circle. They deserve something special, right? Because they're least. Now, the factor.
They're being left out already.
Yeah, now you already know the factor. What is the meaning of factor, by the way?
The meaning of factor
Yeah.
is a number that multiplies into the number.
Yeah, we use this word factor in the context of two different numbers. For example, if I say that 8 is a factor is a factor of 16. That means 8 is going to divide 16, right? Now that is the factor. 8 is the factor of 16. Now these two numbers, they are factor of 6. Let me write down something. Is factor of for example 12. 2 times by 6, and 6 is 2 times by 3. Now that is the factorization of 12.
Sorry.
It's okay. 2 and 3 are factors of 12.
Sorry.
It's okay. Factors of 12, right? Now these are the factors of 12. Now, what is the meaning of greatest common factor? Now, that is going to be in the context of two numbers when we say greatest common factor. Now, for example, listen, you have 12 and 18, and I ask you to find greatest common factor between them. What you gonna do?
12 and 18.
You're gonna find a number which is largest and divide both of them. Now we know that 2 divides both of them, right?
Yeah.
2 divides, and 6 also divides both of them. Now 6 is the largest common factor, or the greatest common factor.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
So now let me write down the factors for both of them. The common factors for both of them are 2 and 6, right? These two numbers divide 12 and 6, but the largest or the greatest is 6. Now it makes sense to you? Greatest common factor. So in order to make greatest common factor, we have a method. Let me teach you a method. What do? We write 12 and 18, and we keep dividing it. You can divide with any number which is common. Now, what is a common number? We know that 6 divides both of them, even 2 divides. So let's start by something simple. Both of these numbers are even, so 2 must divide them. So we divide them by 2, we get 6 there and 9 there. Now, what is common in them? Which common factor still exists between 6 and 9? 3, right?
Three.
3
Yeah.
is a common. 3 divides both of them, so we divide both of them by 3. 3 times by 2 is 6, and 3 times by 3 is 9. You see
Yeah.
that? I'm dividing them on the same time. I divide 6 by 3, I get 2. I divide 9 by 3, I get 3. Now the next thing is, do they have anything common now? Nothing common, right?
No.
Yeah. So this method that we are doing is for LCM, by the way. And we'll do the method for the GCF as well. GCF will they do it later on in order to find the least common multiple, like we did in there, right? We do the least common multiple of that. So the least common multiple of 12 and 18 is gonna be the multiplication of all these numbers. We multiply the sides. We multiply this column with the last row. Now, what is the multiplication of them? The multiplication is 2 times 3 times 2 times 3. Like that time, that time, that. Multiplication of all of them. So we got 6 and 6, 36. So this whole multiplication is 36. So 36 is
The greatest common
LCM of 12. Yeah. That means 36 is the smallest number which is divisible by 12 and 18. Alright? Now, next thing is a kind of formula for the GCF, greatest common factor. Now, greatest common factor. In order to do that, there's this long process and there's a kind of, it's a really simple process. Let me teach you a simple process. For example, somebody asks you to find the greatest common factor between 12 and 18. What are you going to do? You break it down into small numbers. Now we know that 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. That's the prime factorization of that. Now you do the prime factorization for 18, which is going to be 2 times 3 times 3. Right?
Yeah.
Now the next thing that you have to do, find out the common factors between them. Do you notice there is something common in between both of them? We have 2 common.
They both have 2 and 3.
Alright, so 2 is common. I write 2 here. Multiplied by, what else is common? 3 is common. 3 is common. So I write 3 once. So the common factors, you write them out once, and the multiplication of them is going to be the GCF, greatest common factor of 12 and 18. Right? Is that? So your answer is 6. Make sense to you?
Yeah.
Good.
Makes sense.
Alright, Alyssa, that is that. And so we understand the LCM and GCF. Let's do a couple questions in the same context. What is the greatest common factor of 11 and 8? Greatest common factor. That means which common number divides 11 and 8 and the number is greatest on the same time? That's only one, right? One divides both of them. Two doesn't. 2 doesn't divide 11. 3 doesn't divide 11, and even that. So we don't have any number which divides both of them except 1. So I'm gonna fill 1 in there, and let's see what is the answer. That's right. So they accepted our answer. Congratulations for that, Lisa. Now the next thing, what is the greatest common? So what is the greatest common factor of 3 and 18? We are using IXL's featured website. Now
3 and 19. I'm gonna guess that's 6.
Are you sure about it? So, what is the greatest common factor of 3 and 18? 3 is common, right?
Yeah.
3 is dividing both of them.
Yeah.
And 3 is the greatest common factor. So,
Oh, 3.
yeah, 3
Okay.
3 divides both of them. So, well done. And next is, what is the greatest common factor of 5 and 15?
5. Because 5 divides both of them.
Yes, 5, that's right. 5 divides both of them, and 5 is the greatest. What is the greatest common factor of 20 and 15?
5.
Yes, that's right.
Said 5 divides both of them.
5 divides both of them, and 5 is common. 12 and 8.
12 and 8.
2 divides them, 4 divide them, and that's it.
4.
Yeah, 4 is the greatest common. 2 is not. 2 divides both of them, but 2 is not the greatest common factor. Right? What's the greatest common? Yeah, 50 and 2. What's the common factor for 50 and 2? 2.
Oh, 2.
Yeah, you
Right.
cannot divide 2 with bigger number than 2. 2 is divisible by itself or 1. So we have to find a factor which divides 50 and 2. So 2 is the only factor. 2 is not the greatest common factor, but the only factor, right? So now next is 16 and 12. 2.
2.
Good. You got it.
I'm in
And
the hang of it.
42 and 25.
Crap. Now
Think-
I'm getting stuck.
Think about 25. 25 is 5 times 5. And
5.
yeah, 5 doesn't divide 42 though, so we will go for 1. If you couldn't find, then 1 is always a factor. So 1 is the
Or
common
What-
factor all the time.
would it be 6?
6 doesn't divide 25. But now the question is 24 and 36. 36, yeah. 6 divides both of them. 2 divides, right?
6.
Yeah, even 3 divides them. 3, 2, 6. We'll go for the maximum. Now, think more about it. 6 divides. Is there any other number which divides them? 12. Think about 12.
Yeah.
12 times 2, 12 times 3 is 36. 12 times 2 is 24. So, the answer is
12.
yeah. So we submit. That's right. 28 and 42.
28 and 42.
Yeah, let's assume you don't know how to write it. So, greatest common factor. So, on your notebook, you're going to do it that way. Write down all possible factors for 28. They are 2 times by 14. You can break it down slowly. 2 times 14 is that. Then keep breaking down. 14 is 7 times 2. So, right?
Yeah.
So, write that. Now, that's the prime factorization. We cannot go further than that. 227 makes 28. In the same manner, 42 we can write 2 times by 21.
Oh.
Double of 21 is 42. So now, can we go any further? Can we go any further? No. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. because 21 is 7 times 3, right? So we are breaking 21 to 7 and 3. Now look at the common factors in both of them. What are the common factors? We can see 7 is in both of them. 7,
common.
7 is common, yeah. So 7 and
2.
and 2. So those are the common factors. So you write them here. 2 times 7 is 14. So 14 is the common factor of both of these guys. Make sense to you? 14 is greatest common factor of 28 and 42. Now, I want to put emphasis on this thing. 2 is the common factor of both of them, right? 2 is the common factor. 7 is the common factor. And we are looking for the largest, and that is 14.
14.
Because 14 is also the common factor of these two.
Yep.
So we learned that the greatest common factor of that is 14.
14.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember it for a sec.
Yeah, that's 14. That was 14, and now 61 and 66.
Oh, God.
61 and 66 is. Now, probably 61 is a prime number, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is 1 because 61 is not divisible by any number except itself and 1. So 1 should be the prime factor. And they got it. They accepted our answer. Now, 68, 34. You can notice that thing. The double of 34 is 68, isn't it? Double of that number is that. So therefore 34 clearly. 34 divides itself. 34 divides 64. So we're going to go for... Oh, sorry, 68. Sorry about that. 34. Excellent. And now the greatest common factor of 5 and 50. You should answer that one.
2.
From where 2 is coming? 2 doesn't divide 5. 2 doesn't divide 5. So which number divides both of them?
Sorry, it said
That's
2. 1.
Yeah, 1, but we are looking for greatest common factor.
Oh. What did you say once again?
Greatest common factor of 5 and 50. 5 and 50 is 5.
5. Yeah.
5 divides both of them. Greatest common factor of 90 and 36. 90 and 36.
I don't think 9. Oh, 10.
Is it 10? No.
9?
90 and 36, sorry. Let me write it down. Let's break it down. 36 is 6 times 6. Right? And 90 is
9 times
10. Now keep breaking it. 9 is 3 times 3. And 10 is 5 times 2. And there we have 6 is 3 times
So
2. And that is also 3 times 2. You got it? So we are breaking 36. 36 equals to that factorization. Now we have to find a common. Alyssa, what is common factors in these two things, in these two factorizations? 3?
3.
2 3s are common, so write 1 3 and 2 3s are common, right? That is common. and then that is common as well. What else is common? 2.
Two.
These
Yeah.
2's are common. So write your 2 out. So we factor out 3 and 2 and then 3 again. So that number is 6 times 2. Sorry, 9 times 2 is 18. So 18 is the greatest common factor of 90 and 36. So we'll finish this topic here. We'll move on the next one now. And let's go to the next topic.